Hello there! On this tutorial I'm going to teach you how to make this procedural material with a rock and some snow on top of it. So we're going to divide this into three main parts. First one is going to be making the rocky looking material, and it's going to be fairly straightforward. Voronoi displacement for those main shapes, and then adding some cracks and a noise texture on top. So this will be mainly displacement focused. The second part will be to add the snow, and this will be done with a cool trick with texture coordinates using the normals. The last one is kind of a bonus. I'm going to show you how I usually animate my scenes in those tutorials. Okay, let's dive right into it. Okay, so all I have for now is a Suzanne without any subdivision or anything. Set your render engine to cycles. So add the subdivision surface modifier and set it to adaptive subdivision. Next thing is going to be create the material that we're going to make and set the displacement to displacement only. We're going to make very simple rock looking thing. So displacement node, plug that into here. Okay, that's doing some mid-level set it to 0 so we don't have any weird looking stuff. We're going to use a voronoi using the object coordinate. What if we plug this directly in and dial the scale down? So we're already having a rocky situation. I also want to up this, so dicing scale, let's set this to 0.2 or something, so we get a lot sharper edges here. If I set it back to 1, it's very smooth, and if I set it to 0.2 or something like this, it's very sharp. I know that in the render, like right now in the viewport it's 1.6, and when it was to 1 it was 8. So in the render it's gonna be even sharper here, so that's good for us. Nice. Also, I don't want these pointy looking bottom for the crevices, so maybe I put an RGB curve here. Oh wait, what's a float curve? Oh, that's even better. I didn't even know that existed. Okay, so what's causing the point here is Voronoi is calculating the distance to the edges. Like this is the central point. Okay, so a little course on how Voronoi works. It basically distributes points, this one in 3D space, and then it traces a line between all of these points and sets a perpendicular line on the middle of these lines. So basically 2 points here, 3 points here. Okay, we have 3 points here distributed. It's going to set a line between these two, and in the middle trace a perpendicular line. A line between these two, same story and same story here, and wherever they intersect they just cut the lines, so they create these cells. These are the cells, and what we're seeing here is the distance to the point. So here it's 0 and it grows, and where it's 0 it's creating, like, it looks like a point when you look at the displacement. Let me accentuate it. It looks like you pushed some clay in at this specific point, and we don't want this to look like this, so we're just going to smoothen it. And notice that if we're going too much like this, we may see some weird stuff going on, because this curve, like if I do this, this will project this to infinity, so we're going to see some weird looking stuff. Okay, we're being super picky with this. We don't really care about this because it's going to be started out with a lot of noise that we're going to put right now. So let's put all of this here. I want to add some noise. Object coordinate again. Now we're going to mix those. Let's do math. Just an addition. We don't really care. Let me add some details to the noise. Nice. Now it looks like a rock. Maybe a bit of scale, so we have more details. The noise is taking over a lot, so let me just math. Multiply by 0.2. Nice. Now we have a rocky looking situation. We could add some cracks and stuff. You know what? Yes, let's add some cracks. I mean, it's a bit repetitive. If you look at my other tutorials, there is already like a lot of sections on how to make cracks. So let me go really fast on this one. Voronoi, distance to edge. I'm gonna make these lines a lot thinner. Yes. Noise, texture. Check my other tutorial for more detail. I suggest the recycle texture. Mix RGB. Ah, the mix is now this. Oh, what the fuck? Linear light, we see the distortion going on. I don't want cracks everywhere, do I? I'm gonna use another noise, mix, and this I want to be 1, and we're plugging this in color ramp. Now let me plug this in, and now we get cracks only in a few selective places. We can just multiply. We're getting in black wherever there is cracks, and we're getting holes like these. Okay, And if we lower this value even more, we see more details. Maybe we want them to be thinner. Okay, and maybe I can make them go towards infinity. Wow. Okay, and that way we're going to have very deep cracks. I'm gonna add a bit of texture to this first. Yo, this is me after recording because I realized that I forgot to explain the part where, like, I explained the displacement, okay, and I didn't explain the things that went into the rock material. First thing I did here was having a noise texture, driving a color ramp from a grayish to dark to plug into the base color. This added a very simple texture, like this was the before, very blend, and this is the after, more textured looking. And this is what went into the roughness. I took what got out of the displacement, so the whole displacement thing. I took this out into a color ramp and made it into this roughness. So where I wanted it to be the most reflective is at the tip of the voronoi pattern, and where I wanted it least reflective was in the bottom of the crevices. So that's why I inverted this, and then I just simply did with the same noise texture as this. I used it into a bump map, so I had some more details for the rock here. That's it. Okay, now we have a much more interesting looking rock. So now we have this shader, which is the rock. What we're going to do is mix this rock shader with another shader. So let's use the mix shader. Mix shader. Wow. And the other shader we are going to use is gonna be a snow shader. What the Okay, so now we have this slider saying here it's rock, rocky mountains, and here it's snow. Maybe we make it super reflective, whatever. Snow here and rock here. And we switch between these two with this slider. Guess what we're going to do now? Texture coordinate. Yes. Now check this one out. Normal. This one gives us the face orientation, which is going to be super useful because the way we're going to dictate where the snow is like this. Everything facing up is gonna have some snow because the snow falls downwards, or if you have some wind it can fall that way, whatever. You can rotate this however you want. But what we're going to do in this tutorial is say wherever it's facing up is gonna have some snow. So now we can just color ramp, like adjust whatever we want here. Do I want more snow? Less snow? Now we just plug this into here and we will see that we'll have some rock and some snow. Rock and snow, and that's it. That's just the trick. And now if you move this around, you get more or less. Let's say we want the snow to come from an angle. Rotate. Is there a vector rotate? This one, for example. And let's say rotate this. We'll see the snow coming from this angle now. And yes, that's basically it. And now if we light the scene properly, oh, you're gonna see my lighting tricks. I just have big area lamp above my subject, put like two a lot. Then I go to the render thing and I lower the exposure. I don't know why, but that always makes it more crisp looking. Then I have a backlight somewhere, area lamp again, and the backlight, it has to be directly back to the camera. So let me just put the camera perfectly centered and you will see what the backlight does. To have this a different color, so let's say like blue like this, I will burst out a big ass number for this. Yes. So now you see what the backlight does is separate the background from my subject, and then I choose my color here and I dial it down in the saturation to like 0.1 or something. And then we just have this nice edge here. You know what? This top light, usually I put it on top, but here the top is already white. So I'm going to dial down this one. So we still have light coming from the top, but I'm going to duplicate it. Rotate it here. So we have a down light this time because the bottom is more dark. So what does this do? Okay, this highlights this. See, that's cool. And then I choose a side where I just put another light from the camera side towards my subject, make this one a bit thinner, and this way I just choose a side on which the light appears to come from. And here, so the backlight was this color. Here I want to choose a complementary color, which means either I go the opposite side of the color wheel, or I turn a third of the color wheel. So here I'm here, a third would be like around here. So that's why you see a lot of renders with blue on one side, purple on the other. Saturation, I put this down to like 0.1, or coming a bit from the top like this. And yeah, then you just adjust these sliders a lot. I'm not a lighting expert. I'm not a 3D expert at all. I'm a core design student, so yeah, take my advice or don't. I don't care. Because it's a shorter tutorial, maybe I can show you how I animate those values. That's gonna be a bonus added value for those who stay to the end. I'm gonna animate the camera first. I'm just gonna do a zooming in situation, maybe turning a little bit. Turning because I'm gonna show you how I turn my camera setup. So I want an empty, the biggest size, and I'm gonna parent the camera and the lights to the empty, which is here, parent. And now when I turn this, the whole setup turns with us, so we still have the backlight perfectly to the back. So let's do a situation where we turn from here to here, for example. And maybe I want it to be linear, so it looks like a product shot. I love these. And because we parented it when it was like straight facing, we can just animate this to change the distance to the subject. So maybe I want to go from here. So now I'm on the camera settings and I want to adjust the focal length. Nice. And at the end, I want the focal length to be a lot bigger and the distance to be a lot bigger. So we get a cool parallax effect. I want to animate the angle too, so the subject is always in the center. If we had a background, I would have some depth of field. So depth of field, what I did here was you activate the depth of field, then you go to viewport display on the camera settings, show the limits, so you have this cross here that shows the distance. So you don't have to calculate any distance or whatever, you just place it where, like, here you see the cross, here you don't see the cross, and you see that it's intersecting here, so you know it's on the subject. The reason I don't do focus object is I took the habit to just use the slider here, so when I want to animate the focus switching from one object to the other, I just can. If I go to the shading, shader editor, yeah, let's go. Now we have a few values to animate. Also, I want to pop a timeline here. I want to show first the rocks, the rockiness. So I'm gonna disable the snow by moving this controller on the color ramp that controls the factor input, right? I want to show how this moves and stuff. I can control the scale here. I want the final scale to be 3, so I'm gonna put a keyframe here, and I can like put it to 7 here to show some weird stuff going on, and then it's transforming into that final thing, and then maybe I move this so I can transform. Mapping, yes, you say I want this to move in space and I want the final one to be at 0 0, so this here, and here I can just rotate it. Okay, now what does this do? This moves, stops the scale, settles down to our final shape. So this is wobbly, wobbly, wobbly. Yes. And then here we want to have the snow coming. I can animate the position of this one and of the other one. And I will play around with the values to have the final frame or the final few frames as the final values. Everything's cool. That's more of frost rather than a snow, but it's still cool. And yeah, that's basically how I render my animations. So now I just hit render and that's done. Thanks a lot for watching and staying to the end. You can like, share, follow, comment. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the comments. And yeah, thank you for watching.